What's up, everyone? My name is Weez, and we're gonna have a word about the polling that's been taking place. It's definitely swinging in one direction. I have pulled up a mountain of polling data. Not just polls, but we also have a little bit of registration data. We have a little bit of early voting data to go along with the polls to kind of see and track how everything's going. We're not just working with tons of tabs, we're working with multiple windows of tabs because there's so much data. So what I'm actually doing is up here, these are all kind of together. So like I have here, if I go here, here's all the Wisconsin polls. I got a few different ones here. And then if I move up, I'll have Michigan polls. Up further, Nevada polls. So I have all those here as well. And I may come in here. I don't know if I will. I definitely will for this. This is a crazy post. So we'll just talk about this. So polling isn't everything. It's not just the number now where it is. It's more about where the number came from to where it is now. And so when you look at where it was in 2016, a place like Florida was tie. So you had Trump and Hillary pretty much tie in most polls on October 30th, 2016. And he ended up winning. But then in 2020, Biden was up 1.6. And Biden lost Florida quite badly in 2020. And now Trump is up 8.5 in Florida, which is more than Texas, which kind of indicates that Florida is no longer a swing state. And it just, you keep going through, it's actually looking kind of crazy. So I thought that was very interesting. So voter registration in Pennsylvania is very close, and it is by far the most important state because most pollsters are saying that, specifically Nate Silver, who is a liberal pollster, he's saying that if Harris does not win Pennsylvania, she only has a 4% chance of winning the election. I did say in the last election poll video that I made that it's not just that Trump is doing well in the polls, it's that Kamala Harris is actually, she was on the downtrend, and that makes a difference. And so in 1 week, Republicans added 36,507 registered voters, Republican, and then the Democrats just under 20,000. That's that's not good, especially because Democrats usually have a far better ground game than Republicans. Again, everything's about not just looking at what it is now, but comparing it to what it's been in the past. Not just polls, but registration. Registration is up massively for Republicans. And that's compared to themselves over time, and also compared to the rate at which Democrats are registering. And it's in Pennsylvania, which is the most important state. New Jersey is not a swing state. But currently, Republicans are outvoting Democrats in early voting. Republicans don't outvote Democrats in early voting in most red states, even, I believe. So the fact that Republicans, and this is actually across the board, we can start going through this real quick. North Carolina Republicans have expanded their early voting lead again. When you look at these numbers and you realize that in North Carolina, independents are outvoting Democrats in early voting. That's kind of crazy because Democrats are all about the early vote and the mail-in vote and everything. I would assume maybe more have done mail-in voting, or they're just not voting. It's hard to vote for someone who didn't win the primary, you know? It's going to be interesting to find out if Republicans still win Election Day, because Election Day, they always get a much bigger turnout of Republicans on Election Day. But now with them being so early in the vote, is that it's going to be telling on November 5th. Does that mean Republicans are voting early instead of on November 5th on election day? Or does that mean there's just more Republicans voting in general? Well, when you look at the registration data, there's a lot more registered Republicans now than there were in 2020. All right, so before we pull that up, we're going to pull up, we'll go through these first. Yeah. These are all individual polls from different polling places. So you have the Atlas Intel, it's Trump up 3. Quinnipiac is surprisingly has Trump up 2 because they usually lean a little more liberal from all the polling I've seen them do. Fox News, see, this is kind of strange. You'd think Fox News would have Trump like +4 or 5, but they only have him at +1. Emerson seems to be pretty, they kind of flip one way or the other. It's hard to tell, but they have Trump up 2. What's interesting is the more right-leaning polls do have Trump just up +1, +2. But then the left-leaning polls, CNN, CBS, North Star, Redfield, they're at tie. You would think they would have Harris up +1, +2, but they're actually at a tie. If you've seen any reporting on internal polling, we don't usually get campaign internal polling, but when you go look at it, at the reports of how it is, kind of whether it's good or bad, when the reports came out that the Harris campaign internal polling was bad, that's when we saw, all of a sudden we saw the spike. Is that it? Yeah. So on Polymarket, and I understand people, people say, oh, billionaires are just dumping money in there to sway the polls. That's not true because, first of all, you're super naive if you think a rich person is going to put money into something they don't actually think they're going to get money back. And this is kind of my point, is when the reporting of the Harris internal polling came out and it was bad, it wasn't looking good, all of a sudden you had a bunch of rich people who tend to know people on the inside and know what's happening behind the scenes. You had a bunch of rich people flood Polymarket for Trump because people want to make money. When you're rich, you have a sense for making money, and that's why you're rich, usually. I don't think it's like some organized thing to sway the polls, because the polls are not being swayed by Polymarket. No one's looking at Polymarket to see who they should vote for. And so I think this is just, I think it's the fix is in. Or not the fix, but the decision has kind of been made. Like, the wealthy class think Trump's going to win. Else they would all be betting money on Harris, right? And what we saw is when the reports of internal polling was kind of made known, that's when all of a sudden Polymarket just shot up for Trump massively. I mean, you can see Arizona is at 74% chance for Trump winning. Georgia, 73% chance. These are chances, not, how many people voted one way or another. It's more so how much money has been bet compared to either. Michigan's the only place, which is interesting to me. People think Harris still has a good chance in Michigan, but that's just because of the history of the 2020 election and everything that happened in Michigan. That's why I'm thinking people aren't too keen on betting on Michigan for Trump, just because they know it could go either way no matter what the polls say. Getting into this map, though, we're going to fill this out. We'll start with Nevada. We'll just work from this way over. So if we go look at Nevada, this is according to Atlas Intel, and this is like 1 day old. So this is +1. We're going to move over here. This is Redfield. They have Nevada at a tie. So Trump +1 plus a tie. Here's a poll that has Trump up +1. Last poll, their last poll had Harris up +1. Again, that goes into the trend, right? So Harris was trending down, and so the last poll, from one poll to the next, it swings one point. I think last time I did the video, I gave Nevada to Harris. I don't know. It's hard to tell, because the one has Harris barely up, then one has a tie, and then one has Trump up 1. And so it's more or less looking like that. We'll see. We'll leave it there. we'll just leave it kind of red, just because it's slightly leaning red, but not very red. Next, we'll go to Arizona. Let's see what all these polls say about Arizona. So, +1. Arizona's +2 in the... So Redfield is more liberal. That's interesting. It's kind of surprising to me, actually. And then the Atlas Intel has Arizona Trump up +4. But we'll look at even more polls, because this is what we're doing. We're looking at everything and trying to figure it out. And again, with this one, we have Data Orbital that also has the Senate race, which looks like Kari Lake is up almost a full point now in the Senate race. They also have Trump up. Oh, this is massive, actually. They have Trump up 8. That's kind of crazy. But it looks like Arizona is... It's not... Harris didn't make it. She's not trending in Arizona. She's not trending up in Arizona over the last 2 weeks from when I last made the first video. We're looking at Trafalgar, which does lean a little more right, but only has Trump up +2, which is funny that you have a left-leaning poll that has Trump up 2, and then a right-leaning poll that also has him up 2. So they agree on that, so I'm going to say Arizona is +2. But wait, there's more. We're now going to go look at early voting in Arizona. New Jersey, Nevada. Oh yeah, we didn't look at Nevada. So early voting for Nevada has Republicans up. So Trump is slightly up in Nevada. But then when you look at early voting, Republicans are up in early voting. Whereas in 2020, Democrats were up 4.1. Now Republicans are up +5. I think Nevada is swinging red. When you look at the data, not just the polling, but the polling paired with the early voting data, because we're so close to the election, it does look as though Trump will be going to win Nevada. But we're talking about Arizona. So early voting in Arizona is plus... This is crazy that... So in 2020, Democrats were up 2.8 in early voting, and now Republicans are up 6.8 in early voting. Plus, they have Trump pretty much winning Arizona in the majority of the polls. So it looks like Arizona will be going red, along with Nevada. We just looked at the early election voting for Nevada. It's going red, guys. And Arizona's going red. That's... Don't hate the messenger. Just shoot the data, not the messenger. Okay. Now we're going to move on to... let's do Georgia. I didn't actually find that much polling on Georgia, which is... I found a little bit strange. I only have one individual poll, and it was from Trafalgar, which had Trump up +2, which I really don't know who these guys are. I just pulled it up as like a random outlier that we could just check up on for these three. And this one has a deadlocked Georgia. Redfield has Georgia +1 Trump. Again, Redfield more left leaning from what I've seen, has Georgia +1 for Trump. So tie and +1. And Atlas Intel has Georgia +3 for Trump. All right. It looks like Georgia. Okay, let's go look at the early... Do I have early voting data for Georgia? I think I do. North Carolina, Arizona, Pennsylvania. Do I not have it? Nevada. Oh, no, I don't think I have it. I don't have early voting numbers for Georgia. There was a lot of stuff I couldn't pull up for Georgia, but it does look like it's either tie, +2, or +1 for Trump. So it does look like Georgia's going to swing currently as of now. I wish I pulled up the Georgia early voting. I know registration in Georgia's up as well. So It's going to be hard for them to make Georgia blue this time around. It is what it is. Most polls do have Trump up in Georgia, so Georgia's going red. Now we'll get to these three last. North Carolina, we'll start, I only have this one here. So Trump is +2 in North Carolina, which is the same here. Yeah, that's the same poll actually. So +2. Emerson has Trump also +2. I should put this over here. Redfield has North Carolina Trump +2. And Atlas Intel has North Carolina Harris +1. So that's interesting. I would still say 2 +2s and 1 +1 probably, it's definitely leaning to Trump. So let's go check out early voting, shall we? Like I said, I got a lot of data and I'm trying to like navigate through it all. North Carolina early voting. So Republicans are up in early voting as well in North Carolina. Again, Republicans are usually not early voters. They show up on election day. So the fact that there's a whole bunch of Republicans voting early, if Republicans win election day as well as early voting, they win the state. It's just how it goes. It's a bellwether marker where it's like, usually Democrats voting early didn't mean too much because Republicans always showed up in mass on election day. But now you have Republicans showing up in mass in early voting. It's really going to be telling if they show up as well on election day and they outvote Democrats on election day. It's not looking good for Democrats. That's just what the data says. I apologize. Don't shoot the messenger. I got a lot of nasty comments on my last video where I did where I did the electoral map. I had people saying to me, how could Harris possibly lose Pennsylvania with Walz as her VP? And I was like, does he think Walz is the governor of Pennsylvania? Because she actually, this is the problem, right? Harris should have chose Shapiro, who's the governor of Pennsylvania, to be her running mate, to be her VP. 100% she should have chose him. But he's Jewish, so that causes a massive problem because half Democrats all of a sudden hate Jews nowadays because of the Gaza Palestine thing. They all chose Palestinians over the Jews, so now they're on the Palestinian side, half of them. And so so I'm pretty sure that was why she didn't choose him. She should have, because she needed all the help she could get in Pennsylvania. Minnesota's going blue. I don't even look at polling for Minnesota because I already know it's going to be blue. Just don't even think about it. It's blue. Why would you pick a governor from a solid blue state? It's just a stupid mistake. Because they were too scared to pick a Jew as a running mate. Because Jews are all bad and colonizers now, according to half the Democrat voter base. And so I feel like so many mistakes have been made by the Democrats. It's not even that Republicans are outperforming, Republican campaigns are outperforming the Democrat campaign. It's more so the Democrats have just made so many mistakes. First of all, they chose Joe Biden when everyone could tell he didn't have the mental faculties to keep it up. And then they let Biden debate before the DNC, which maybe they knew it was a mistake and so they're trying to fix it. So they'll like sacrifice him and then we'll switch him out at the DNC. But then they messed up because you can't just take Biden's campaign funds and just give them to any other random campaign. So they had to, that's why I think they picked Harris, is because it's the only person they could have moved the money to. And so they just picked her. There was no primary. You and I, everyone watching this video, we all got the same amount of votes in the Democrat primary as Kamala Harris did. So you can give yourself a pat on the back. You did great. You got just as many votes as she did in the primary. Unfortunately, they picked her instead of us. So that was a mistake. And then it's just been mistake after mistake. Kamala Harris got caught in a hot mic with Gretchen Whitmer at the bar saying that they're struggling with men, with young men. And it's like, you were invited to do the Joe Rogan podcast, which is the biggest podcast in the world. But not only that, it's a massive majority of young men who watch it, which is exactly who you need. And you're not going to go and... I mean, you should be requesting a 5-hour interview on the Joe Rogan Experience. Anywhere, anytime. Instead, she basically turned it down by saying, I'll only do an hour and you have to come to me. If Joe Rogan leaves his studio to go anywhere to interview anybody, it's no longer the Joe Rogan Experience. It's just a political interview. And that's not what Joe Rogan does. So, and they know that's not what he does. They turned it down because they're idiots. Absolute idiots. That was like your one last chance to get the male vote, is to go on Joe Rogan. And she didn't. She didn't. She would get millions of views because people want to watch a train wreck. Actually, they know that. That's exactly why they're not putting her on there. North Carolina is going red. Let's move on to... We'll leave Pennsylvania, the most important one, for last. What's going on in Wisconsin? Let's start with... We'll start with this one. Here we have Emerson. So last time I did this video, again, trends matter, right? Last time they had it deadlocked. Wisconsin was in fact deadlocked across every poll I looked at, whether it leaned right or left or it was down the road in the middle. And even the betting markets were saying it's even, which was wild to me, which means nobody knew what was going to happen there. But now Trump is up 1 in Emerson, which had him at even last poll. The Senate race does look like it's locked, but it is leaning Trump in the Emerson poll. Redfield has Wisconsin, Harris +2, which I'm not surprised. Redfield is left leaning. When you look at their sample rate, it's always plus like 3 or plus 4 Democrat and stuff. So I'm not surprised which means now it is kind of more leaning Harris, I would say, because she's +2 and +1 for Trump. Atlas Intel has Wisconsin also deadlocked. Okay, let's go look at the individual. It does... I think Wisconsin will be going blue. But that's just me. Let's look at the data some more. So it starts... Okay, so it starts here. USA Today has Trump up +1 in Wisconsin. The final Wisconsin poll by Insider Advantage has Trump up +1 as well. Suffolk has Trump +1. Insider Advantage +1 Trump. The Senate is also, looks like it's leaning plus. See, that's very different polling from the first poll we looked at. So to me, I think it's still even. I don't think we actually know. Nobody knows. Bunch of polls had Trump up 1, and then there was the one poll that had Harris up 2. Let's just say that the ones cancel out one of the two, and now it's Harris +1. That's kind of what I feel is happening. So I'm just going to make Wisconsin blue. It can go red though. Next we're going to look at Michigan. I'm just going to go through here. So I will mention the Atlas Intel poll. You'll see it popping up a lot here simply because Atlas Intel had the best... They were the most accurate. They had the most accurate polling in 2020. So I'm using a lot of their polls because they've proven to be more accurate in not just 2020 but also in 2022. So, and according to them, this is the electoral map. So notice, even though, I mean, they have Wisconsin red, I don't know. I still feel like it could go either way, but I'll leave it blue. Even though the most accurate polling place has it red, I'm still going to leave it blue. Now we're going to go to Michigan. Let's look at, we'll look at this first. Michigan. So last time I was looking at polls from Michigan, we were looking at Harris was up a little bit in most of the polls, but some polls did have Trump up. Atlas Intel have Trump +1. Redfield has Michigan Harris +1. And it's not part of that one, so we will put that back. Okay, so I have a bunch of Michigan polls here. Starting here. Emerson has... Oh, they even added the Senate and the leaners in this. This is cool, and it's got a low graph here. Again, remember, the last video I made about this, I said specifically, Harris is currently winning Michigan, but she's on a downtrend. And you can see, I made it like end of September, and it was right. So then 10th of October, boom, you see the downtrend. I called it. I called the downtrend. I could see it in the data. It was happening. And now we have Emerson polls showing Trump up 1. What's happening in the Senate? The Senate is still blue. So Harris, like I figured out, Harris is downtrending. Senate, the Senate race, the Democrat senator running there, they're not downtrending, right? They're holding it. Oh, wrong way. Let's go this way. Michigan, insider advantage. Interesting, they have the Senate race locked, and then they have Trump up 1. Insider polling has insider advantage. So this is locked as well. Trump is up +1. Harris is doing better in Michigan than other swing states. You can't argue. You can't say she isn't. But her downward trend has made the margins much closer. But as of right now, I do believe Michigan's probably most likely... Whoa, why did I do that? It's most likely going to be blue. Now for the big one. Pennsylvania. The most important swing state this election cycle. Let's go check out what's happening in Pennsylvania. Let's look first. We'll look at these first. I can get rid of that. All right, Redfield has Pennsylvania at a tie. So left-leaning pollster has it at a tie. Atlas Intel, the most accurate pollster from the last 2 elections, has Pennsylvania, Trump +3. Interesting. So +3 kind of, I was expecting like a +1 or +2. +3 is kind of solid actually for a swing state. And then Pennsylvania, these are all the polls. All the pollsters, not all the pollsters. These are like a lot of the pollsters. Starting with Dallas Intel with +3. Quinnipiac is usually more liberal, but they have Trump at +2 here. Fox News only has Trump at +1. I would have thought the Atlas Intel would have had +1 and Fox News would have had like +3, +4. Emerson, Trump +2. I don't know what SPNR is, but they have Trump +1. Insider Advantage, also Trump +1. Then I mentioned earlier, very interesting, CNN liberal-leaning, CBS liberal-leaning, North Star Redfield. These are liberal-leaning pollsters. All have tie. I would have expected some of these to be +1 Harris. And then let's look at some Pennsylvania numbers. Where does it start? So this is the Quinnipiac. Okay, so obviously I list them all, but I want to get into a little more detail. This is interesting because Quinnipiac has Trump. Let's go. September 16th had Harris +5 in Pennsylvania. See what I'm saying? Like, they are more liberal. Quinnipiac has always been a little bit more liberal leaning in their polling. And this example, September 16th, they had Harris at +5. October 7th, Harris had gone down +2. Remember, I called it last video. I said downward trend. She's doing decent, but she's on the downward trend, which is not good. But anyway, and then now October 28th, same poll, Trump's now up +2. So that flipped, that went down for Harris 3 and then flipped 4. Insider advantage, Trump +1, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania insider polling. So they show the Senate here as well. So Trump is +1. The Senate race is deadlocked, but McCormick is up 2. So again, that's a downward trend for the Dems and an upward trend for the Republicans. That's going to be interesting. That's a big race because I believe the Senate was decided last time by Pennsylvania because Fetterman, I believe, right? He won the Senate in Pennsylvania and became the senator. And then there's 2 senators in Pennsylvania. This is the other Senate race, I believe. So this one also has Pennsylvania up, Trump up 1. But then you also have to keep in mind that Pennsylvania, the voter registration is way up with Republicans. The week before the election, Republicans have registered like 17,000 more people. Almost 17,000 more people than Democrats. So that matters. These little things matter. If I had to bet money, if I was a billionaire and I had to bet money, I would say Pennsylvania is going red. Which means Trump is winning. Anyway, hope everyone has a good evening or day, wherever you are. And I will see everyone in the next one. Bye, everyone.